Are there any agenda additions from the admin?
None from admin, Mr. Chair.
Any from board members? Seeing none, can I get a motion? Mr. Paul McKay, all those in favor? And Justin, without saying no, is in favor. Okay, minutes from our 24 April meeting. Any errors or omissions? Seeing none, Mr. Silver, give us the motion.
I will.
All those in favor, and that's carried. Again, Mr. Stevens on the Zoom. No business arising from the minutes, so we'll do introductions, and we're going to start with Mr. Rich Fitzgerald.
Rich Fitzgerald, Development Officer.
Michelle Hooper, Legislative Assistant.
Attorney Gender, Board Member. Kay, Board Member.
Larry Clark, Board Member.
Les Stulberg, Board Member.
James Nyberg, Chair of MPC.
Greg Teal, Director of Planning and Development.
Go to this guy.
Andrew Brishick, Director of Municipal Services.
And you, sir?
Mayor Levine, owner of the property.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to 6.1 and number 7. Who's taking this one? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, subject property, the purpose of this application is to consider discretionary use development permit application. Subject property is located several miles southwest of the village of Big Valley. It's almost 5 acres in size and it's zoned agricultural. Parcel is surrounded by agricultural land with one residence to the east and one to the west. County staff were notified of a possible unpermitted development on Lot 3, Block 1, Plan 1623998. After a site inspection was performed, it was noted that an older mobile home on blocks and 2 ancillary buildings were present. A search on the property identified that a permit had been issued in September of 2021 for an oversized ancillary building, but nothing referring to the 2 smaller ancillary buildings or the manufactured home. The landowner was subsequently contacted and asked about the unpermitted structures. The landowner identified that he had decided not to go forward with the oversized ancillary building and instead decided to place a manufactured home on the lot with the 2 smaller ancillary buildings. Planning staff instructed the landowner that to bring the property into compliance, a development permit application must be submitted for the manufactured home and the 2 ancillary buildings. The application was also subject to a penalty of $300 for starting a development without a permit, and this fee and application has been paid. During the site inspection, after the permit was received, it was determined that the location of the manufactured home was within a slope greater than 15% and higher than 10 feet. The applicant was notified of the requirement of a slope analysis study from a certified geotechnical engineer, which they have provided. Some discussion, the reason that this permit is discretionary is because the manufactured home is older than 10 years. So it has to come before MPC for decision. And then the conditions here are listed to assist in the review of the compatibility with the older mobile home with surrounding development. These are the requirements. It's what we need to process the application. Recent color photographs of the building, statement of any proposed improvements to the building, including description of color, texture, and or finish of the exterior. And then furthermore, the land use bylaw goes on to say that, that these conditions have to be added into the permit, that any renovations or improvements will be required to ensure the manufactured home complies with this bylaw shall be listed as conditions of the development permit. And then it gives us a 1-year completion date once the permit is issued, that all those upgrades have to be completed. And then the requirement for the slope analysis is in there as well. So if we scroll down to the next page, you can see the pictures of the existing, this is the mobile on the lot that were taken during the site inspection. The third picture down is an example of the cladding that the applicant is proposing to install on the manufactured home. Structure meets all the required setbacks, so there's no variances required. So the alternatives are we can approve the application based on the conditions put forward by administration, approve the application based on revised conditions, postpone the application to receive further information, or deny the application stating the reasons. So if we scroll down to the permit, you'll see in there we have put conditions skirting the manufactured home, including the finish shall be completed within 30 days that the home is placed on the site. So we're already kind of past that one. But the improvements are the important one. That one is the one that we've given them a year to get that done. And that placement of the manufactured home must meet the requirements that were noted in the slope analysis study, which is the reshaped grade to 4:1 and ensure that positive drainage is maintained so that overland runoff doesn't pool in the cut area. Those are the reasons for placing those conditions on the permit. And that concludes my report.
Perfect. Any questions? Go ahead, Mr. Gender.
I'm looking at the slope stability, one of where it's a 15% grade. I'm not really sure, say, like, in order to disturb the ground that is already there and then to get growth or regrowth on it, I'm not really sure whether I would want to go there, or how close are we to that it is, I'll say, applicable to what we have requested, to that 4:1 slope.
Well, that was the recommendation of the geotechnical engineer, was to cut it back to a 4:1 slope, make sure there's positive drainage so the water doesn't pool under the trailer, and to revegetate the land. So that's why we put that in as a condition of the permit.
As long as the owner knows about it. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Levine, do you have any comments you want to make? Just step up to the mic if you'd like to. You don't have to, you're more than welcome.
Don't really know what to say. Like I did start it early, but with the slopes, I'll be excavating. I have excavators at my own property. I finally got one running, and it would be cutting it back because obviously with the trailer you can't add to it because it would be underneath. So it would be sloping it down at a 4:1 ratio. And that would have to be in all angles because I dug it down level with the excavator last year. Geez, it's been a while. And that's like, I leveled it myself. And then the structure was to be brought on, and it brought on by ACS Towing. And they had leveled the building itself. And the plan is to have concrete footing put underneath and get it off those blocks, mounted in. And that way there's no pulling possible at all.
Okay. I guess, and you don't want a swimming pool under there, I guess.
Oh, God. No, it'll go for a long stroll because that's like clay. As soon as it's wet there, I have about 3 inches of mud on my boots on the bottom. It was not a smart idea to dig in that place.
Okay. Any other questions, concerns? Mr. Clark?
Septic, was there any septic field?
No, the applicant identified that this isn't going to be a dwelling. It's going to be more of a recreational area. So he has no intentions to connect it to water or wastewater services.
Anybody want to, okay? Mr.
I will move staff recommendation.
Okay.
With conditions.
With conditions. Okay, no questions or concerns. All those in favor? That's carried. There you go. Okay. Perfect. That's it. Okay. So seeing nobody else here, so we'll just keep going in order. 6.2, Weimar Colony. Page 16 of your package, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, the purpose of this application is to discuss a discretionary use development permit application for construction of a community facility, colony school / gymnasium. Weimar Colony has been registered on the property since 1983, and the operation yard and gardens cover portions of the northwest, northeast, and southeast quarters of 33616 west of the 4th. Access to Weimar Colony is from Township Road 360. The land surrounding the base section of the colony is zoned agricultural, and there are no residents located within a 1 mile radius of the operation. Weimar Colony has previously worked with the county of Stettler as well as the NRCB to ensure all the development on the property has been reviewed and permitted correctly. Copies of all the development permits issued by the county are located on the land file. So scroll to the next page. You can see the location of the proposed community facility in relation to the residences on the colony, and it is separated from the more industrial farming operations. It's adjacent to the existing school just to the south. The next picture down is the proposed facility layout. So you can see the large gymnasium areas, several classrooms, so it's going to be kind of a multi-use building. And site pictures that were taken on site, basically where the swings are is where the proposed location of the new structure is going to go. And as you can see, it's separated from the more high traffic areas of the colony and set far back from the agricultural uses. Subject property is located in the Ag District. A community facility is listed as a discretionary use in this district. The land use bylaw definition describes the proposed use of the Bymore colony for the structure. Community facility means the use of land or building or both by public, quasi-public, or private groups of people to assemble for the purpose of religion and structure, culture, non-commercial recreation, or other community activity. Typical uses are schools, libraries, YMCA, etc. The proposed new school design at 8,700 square feet, a 60 by 145 building, and will be constructed of prefab concrete wall panels. Floor plan includes gymnasium, library, teacher's room, office, and classrooms, as well as plenty of storage space. The school is expected to have 3 to 4 staff, and the previous structure that where the school was is going to be dedicated as use of a church and support German school studies. Setback requirements have all been met, so there's no need for a variance for this application. The alternatives are approve the application, revise the application, and approve it, postpone the decision on the application to receive further information, or deny stating reasons. Staff recommendation is that we approve the development with the attached conditions to the attached development permit. And these are your standard applications. The contractor is responsible to look after the safety codes permits and has to be undertaken according to the attached site plan. It's just your standard standard conditions for a development of this type. And that concludes my presentation.
I got one quick question, and that is, where's the gas line come in on here?
Good question. If you pull it up on web map, it may.
I just said, if you check, normally you guys do a chart where it's done, to show the gas line coming in, you know what I mean? It's not a big deal. If you guys already checked it, that's cool. Mr. Stolberg, then Mr. Grover.
I would like to move staff recommendation to approve this, and with one clarification, the applicant had spoke to me last night, and regarding the construction material, it is not going to be a prefabricated concrete wall structure. It's going to be a stick build.
Okay.
So it's going to be on a concrete slab.
Gotcha.
So, but you'll get that all when he files his report of structure design and all that. So, but yeah, no, I'd be happy to move this forward.
Okay, Mr. Grover.
That's what I was gonna do, move it forward, get it out of here.
Okay. Any questions or concerns? You don't want to question the area counselor on anything? All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, 6.3. Page 26 of your package, gentlemen. And I think Rich is taking this one too.
Mr. Chairman, this application is to consider a discretionary use permit application for a home business, an automotive repair shop. Subject property is a 3.04 acreage located in the hamlet of Botha. Subject property is surrounded by residential properties to the east and north, with a public service lot to the west consisting of a drainage pond and Highway 12 to the south. Subject parcel consists of a detached dwelling with a detached garage. The applicant lives in the dwelling and operates the automotive repair shop out of the garage. He is the only employee of the business, and he estimates that he repairs 1 to 3 vehicles per day on average. The applicant has indicated that there will be no storage of customers' vehicles in the yard for more than a day or two at a time, and there will be no more than 1 or 2 vehicles present on the property at any given time. There is ample parking for several customers' vehicle on site if needed. The automotive repair shop has operated on the property before Botha became a hamlet. The applicant applied for and received a roadside development permit for his operation through Alberta Transportation in July of 2017. Is now attempting to bring the business into compliance with the County of Stettler's land use bylaw and the MPIC at the same time. Site photos that were taken, that's the garage that the gentleman operates the automotive repair shop in. Second photo down is the dwelling on the property where he resides. And some more shots of the equipment that he has inside. It's got an alignment rack and a hoist. And then the aerial to show where in relation in the village to where the property is. You can see it's a fairly large parcel of land for a hamlet. Land use bylaw. The subject property is zoned hamlet residential. A home business is a discretionary use in this district, and a home business is defined in the land use bylaw as follows. Home business is to be operated as a secondary use to the principal residential use. No other persons other than permanent residents of the property shall be engaged in the home business. Shall not interfere with the rights of adjacent landowners to the quiet private enjoyment of their property. Home business shall not produce nuisance such as noise, vibration, dust, etc. Shall not generate additional traffic that is characteristic of the neighborhood, and the hours of operation are restricted as posted there. Any alterations to accommodate a home business or the other residential function in the principal dwelling so that some of the existing space may be used for the home business may be allowed as long as such alteration comply with the bylaw. So only one commercial vehicle shall be allowed in connection with a home business. There's no commercial vehicles attached to this application. And home business shall not adversely affect traffic safety. Setbacks have all been met. There's no requirement for variance. The applicant has indicated that he will be the only employee of the operation. The applicant does reside on the subject parcel. The applicant has indicated that he expects the operation to generate 1 to 2 vehicles per week to the property, which is not out of character for the area. The business will operate within the usual business operation times. The applicant is not proposing to do any alterations or renovations to the outside of the building. The operation will not occupy more than 30% of the floor area of the dwelling and the ancillary building. The applicant needed a 30 by 40 parking area for the home business, and there is a clear sight triangle to the north and south directions from his approach. There will be no commercial vehicles involved with the operation of the home business. So staff recommendation is that we approve the application based on the conditions in the draft development permit that's attached, and just your standard conditions that he has to dedicate 30 by 40 parking area. It's a time limited permit, and the period of time for which the permit remains valid shall coincide with the period of time for which the development permit owner resides on the property. It has to be undertaken and completed in accordance with the site plan. Advertising sign no larger than 4 square feet. Regular hours of operation. And the home business shall be confined to the ancillary building identified on the site plan. And that concludes my presentation.
Mr. Clark, you have the floor.
Yes, I just want one question and then I want to move it forward. But in one area, it says 1 to 2 vehicles per day. And then we're saying here 1 to 2 vehicles per week. So I think there might be
Yeah, 1 to 2 per day.
per day. That's what, but
That's kind of what we're approving, but he's saying 1 to 2 per week, so.
yeah, okay. Okay, and yeah, so based on that, I will, number 1, approve the application based on conditions put forward by administration.
So, one question I have is the 4x4 sign. I may be wrong, but the current sign is a 4x6. So, should we change that to 4x6? I don't, or maybe it's a 4x8. I think you just put up a sheet of plywood if I remember. Ernie, you live across the street. What's it? How big? The sign's bigger than 4x4.
Yes, it is. It's attached to his building.
So how does that work? Should we change that a little bit?
We could, amend the development permit that we would allow for that. In the requirements of the home-based business, that was one of the conditions, but I believe we can apply variance to that.
You're on the right track. Just to be clear, 4x4 is like 2 feet by 2 feet.
No, this is much bigger than that, but it's not sticking out onto a street or anything. It's off on the end of the building. You couldn't read it if it was 2 by 2.
And the sign was part of his Alberta transportation permit as well. It was noted on there.
If we prove it, he has to take his sign down. So we're getting another.
Your latitude on this is you can modify a conditional approval. It would qualify as granting a variance to a standard, so you briefly do have to go through the same test. You're comfortable that it won't unduly interfere with the use of someone else's property to make use of a largest residential area, and it fits within the character of the area. So if you're comfortable with that as the development authority, yes, we can stipulate a custom size, it's a variance to this approval.
I think he's got a 4x8 sign there, just,
Yeah, and it's pointing away from any of the other population.
yeah, no, and I hate to automatically put him out of, like, 4x4 is like this by this, right? It's a,
It's 2 by 2. Yeah, you wouldn't even see it from the highway.
yeah, so I'm just saying that's why the current, it's been operated this way with 0 complaints for a very long time. So I would think that I would take from somebody's motion the change of the condition to allow for a 4x8 sign to be.
Yeah, the custom sign or what the size is on that building.
4x8. That's what I think it is. It's just, I mean, it's just driven by it.
Would you take that with that amendment?
We could just say that the existing sign could be still continue to be used.
More specific is probably best. If we're comfortable that it's the size of a sheet of plywood, that we should specify the existing 4 feet by 8 foot sign is allowed to continue.
You're driving by at 100 clicks an hour, but
Yeah, I've got the sign when I took the site inspection, so I have a picture of it. It's a sheet of plywood.
Yeah, so I'm comfortable if the mover is comfortable with changing that condition to a 4x8 sign, I'm okay with that. 4 feet by 8 feet.
so good.
Yeah. So the one condition change that we have, gentlemen, is that sign size. Other than that, everything else is the same. And we have a motion from Mr. Clark to go ahead with that amendment. All those in favor? That's carried. Okay, thank you. Marshall, 7.15 in the Hamlet of Erskine, one side to the other.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The 2 subdivision reports will be presented by me. We'll just jump to the sketch. That's great. That's the one that I need. So this one's a little bit out of the ordinary compared to what you've seen in the last couple of years. We're in an urban area. And the other, it's a subdivision, but more formally, it's a separation of title application. So what that means is typically when some of our hamlets and small towns were created, a series of small 25-foot lots were created. The idea that if you wanted to buy 3 because you wanted a big house, then you had 3 on your title. If you wanted 5, then you had 5 25-foot wide lots on your title. So if you're going to split them, if you're going to separate some of the lots that are listed in your title and add them to another title, you still have to come through the formal subdivision process. So what's happening on this kind of block face, which is the entire area that you see up on the screen with the dashed pink and orange line around it, is on the lower left, that's the location of the post office in Erskine. It's owned, the entire property from one street over to the next is owned by the applicant. And what they're trying to do is in the middle, you can see between the pink and the white line, that's where lots 9 and 10 are located. And they're trying to take lots 9 and 10, which currently go with the house and the trailer to the right-hand side of the photo, and remove it from that parcel and add it to the post office and the house and the garage on the left side of the photo. These are always a little bit hard to show all the before and after type blocks. So right now you have 3 on the west end that are under one title and 5 on the east end that are on another title. And the idea is to switch it so you have 5 on the west end under one title and 3 on the east end under one title. So really what we're doing is we're separating the 2, 9 and 10 from the other 3 on the east end of this block. So that's the convoluted that we're trying to, what you're seeing on the screen. Technically, the consolidation would then occur to add that land to the property that the post office is on. That's part of the applicant's reason. And if you zero in on do we have a blow up on the next photo, Andrew, I believe? a little bit more zoomed in, you see some of the issues that the applicant is trying to fix. So on the site to the left, you see the kind of the second building in, that's the garage, and you see it's going over the white line. So we've got an encroachment into his other neighboring property. And so he's trying to clean that up because that's about 4 to 6 feet over the line. And then where the new pink line is, if you go to the right, that's the edge of lot 10. And it would just make the 5-foot yard requirement from the manufactured home to the east. So we're not creating another encroachment problem by switching the 2 lots over. The only other interesting item that I would mention for this application is the fact that right through 9 and 10 on an angle, we installed a culvert for drainage many years ago, and it's not protected by utility right of way. The applicant has been quite good to work with on it, and it is listed as a condition, but effectively the county will be picking up the tab to do the legal documents to create the utility right of way after the fact. But just to make sure we don't miss it, that is why it's listed as a condition. But there's probably more county follow-up on that one than the applicant per se. So with that, Mr. Chair, it does meet all the other requirements in terms of the risk and concept plan, the land use bylaw, and staff have no concerns with the application and recommend the conditions that you can find. Just get there. Page 2, I think. Oops, maybe a little further up. So the typical ones, it's still a subdivision, so we still look at the issues of taxes. My mistake. It's page 37 is where we get the recommendations. 38 is Andrew just drive you nuts. So not very many. The instrument that would be used for the survey is actually not a plan. There's a form that you would fill out to submit the land titles because all the parcel boundaries are already created. We do have to deal with the taxes. And then the third one is the one I was mentioning about the utility right of way to cover our existing drainage culvert. With that, Mr. Chair, I'd be happy to field any questions.
Any questions, concerns? Mr. Stover?
I will move staff recommendation for approval.
No questions, concerns? Then I will go, just, yeah.
Yeah, we are like, they're in full agreement with that culvert going across there.
Yes, they are. So there's probably, sorry, excuse me. I was a little bit worried that our typical approach is that we'd like to have 20 feet. So the pipe down the center of the 20, 10 feet on either side, it's relatively shallow, so we don't need a lot of working area. In looking at the agreement, there may be a corner of a fence that kind of just falls into that, and I won't know that until I get our surveyor's drawing and showing the utility right away. But yes, the applicant has been quite amenable to that and knew about it when he walked in and had it on his hand-drawn drawing and had more history to share with me than I found in our file.
Yeah, he's, yeah, I did work with him.
Okay. No, it's just a.
They actually, I think when we put that in, that was part of the water drainage system way back when, and they were just, yeah, just stick it in there. That was back when you did things a little differently. So.
Yeah.
If the error is correct, I think we're talking about 20 years ago.
Yeah. That was to take all the water from the north down and it goes across the highway, you know. Okay, we have a motion on the table. Seeing no questions, concerns, we'll call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. 7.2, 47 of our package, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, this one is actually one of the ones you are more used to seeing in this format. So this is a first parcel out around an existing farmstead. I'm flying by my, thanks very much, Andrew. So you see it's the creation of an 8-acre parcel in the southeast corner of the quarter section. It's at the junction of a relatively busy township road and range road. There actually is stop control at that intersection for the east-west direction, I believe. The applicant, it does meet all the requirements of the land use bylaw. The only question on this one may be the precise location of the open discharge. We estimated it's in the north side of the tree belt of trees that you can see going through the middle of the property, just to the north of one of the outbuildings there, where you see all the driveway. We couldn't locate it precisely in the field. So that's why we've added a condition or suggest a condition to this application that the surveyor may have to find that one for us and confirm that for the new parcel boundaries, both to the north and west. And it's probably the one to the north that's going to face a bigger challenge, that we have the required 90-meter setback before the new property line. If it doesn't pan out the way we think it is, and that location is a little farther north, this parcel is probably going to become a little bit bigger. And that would actually trigger a rural development fund contribution. Right now, staff are recommending that the full 8 acres seems to be part of the farmstead removal, or farmstead in terms of paddocks, shelter belt driveways and buildings that would go for the farmstead. So if it stays at 8 acres, our recommendation was no rural development fund, but if it grows, we'd have to revisit that number, and whatever amount that's added would go as part of the rural development fund. Road widening is required on both sides of the quarter section, since this is a first parcel out. So we are looking for a 5-meter wide road dedication on Range Road 20-1 and on Township Road 39-4. The access onto the Range Road 20-1 is a little closer than our standard to the 4-way intersection of the Range Road and the Township Road. Public Works and Planning staff both recommend that we allow the existing access to continue to be used. It's 45 some meters off, and the stop control and good sight distances, especially with follow-up in the brushing condition, will still make for a very safe access point. So with that, Mr. Chair, the municipal reserve dedication is not at play because it is the first parcel out of a quarter section, so we're not allowed to require it at this particular stage. And just to quickly run down the conditions, if I can find the correct page before Andrew. I didn't, eh? So this one will require a plan, the taxes to be settled up. I mentioned the 2 road acquisition agreements, and just for sake of simplicity, we list each of the 2 roads separately. That's why there's 2 conditions. To the north of the existing access, and we do need a little bit of brushing, so that's the typical authorization for our crews to go out and do it when they fit the schedule. And number 6 deals with that confirmation issue. And then the last one I forgot to mention is the proposed west boundary looks like it's getting a little close to that farm building. And we'd ask the surveyor to confirm at the time of doing drawing that they have the required 3-foot setback from that property. So that is the recommendation from staff, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Questions, concerns? Just the one, the discharge, if it was to be that it was like 80 feet, could they not knock it back 10 feet and put it in the proper spot?
They would lose their grandfathering, so to speak, under the private sewage disposal. So
I just wondered. That was it.
their other option would be to change the system and abandon the out. But quite honestly, we know the economics of this will probably favor adding additional land and paying the rural development fund.
Okay, fair enough. Any issues, concerns?
Number 6 takes care of that possibility.
It does, Mr. Chair. So what I can't tell you at this point is where they actually find it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be asking. So I'm hoping that we're not adding, 5 acres more. I think that would be too dramatic. But if it's a matter of adding another acre because it's farther beyond that tree line than we thought, that's what's encompassed or meant by condition number 6.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gender,
I'll move it to the board, please. Thank you.
any questions or concerns? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you, gentlemen. Department report. Who's taking this one? What's going on in the department?
Let's wait till Andrew gets up to the page. So
Top of your head?
thank you, Mr. Chairman. Total number of development permits processed until May 22nd of 2023 was 32, and total number of developments processed until May 16th of this year is 40. So we are a bit ahead of last year's numbers. We've also been able to lower the turnaround time for permitted use permits, in some cases having the permit approved and returned to the applicant in less than 7 days of deeming their application complete. Discretionary use permits are unchanged in turnaround time. Planning staff have been getting several inquiries pertaining to renewable energy projects, both private and commercial. With the upcoming summer season approaching, planning staff will be working with bylaw officer Potter doing walkthrough inspections of ER and MR lands adjacent to the lake to monitor encroachment issues and compliance with the docking and mooring policy. Planning staff have also been updating the temporary RV permitting map to allow bylaw to patrol and enforce the RV permitting bylaw. With the first round of weekend patrols complete, no infractions were identified. I should probably note that was prior to the long weekend when I wrote this. I'm sure that still stands, but it has been really busy. Phone calls, lots of people coming in. I think Greg and I probably both have 6 or 7 applications out that have been returned that were probably all show up on the same day. So it has been a busy season for sure.
Okay, that's it. Can I get a motion to receive for information or questions?
Move it.
Okay, receive for information, Mr. Clark, all those in favor? It's carried. Ducks Unlimited, page 74 of our package.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So this one does kind of look a little funny in that it's Ducks Unlimited giving themselves the Ducks Unlimited conservation easement. So I actually had to call back and ask them myself if they had filled in the wrong applicant. So they're a little bit behind. Our land ownership information hasn't caught up, but they recently purchased this half section at auction. And I'm not sure if that means Ducks Unlimited holds it in perpetuity or will sell it at some future date, given that they're putting the easement in place. I'm thinking they may sell off it at some future point in time, or they're hedging their bets. So this one, for some of the other ones you're familiar with, it comes to us just to confirm whether or not we are willing to waive the 60-day time frame that they otherwise have to give us to talk to the applicant or talk to the landowner if we're not comfortable with a conservation easement. But by and large, that's the sole purpose for it being in front of a municipal planning commission. So planning staff don't have any concerns with the conservation easement document that's been presented and recommend a waiver of the remainder of the 60 days to allow registration to proceed.
This is an odd different one because we have in the past made a point of telling the applicant that they should get some legal advice from a private lawyer to make sure that they're comfortable with the easement going forward. But Mr. Gender.
Once in the past, we have said, okay, we're going to, okay with them. So I'll make that motion along with that, please.
I don't think that's once in the past we've pushed them to the 60 days on point, but you got the right to make that motion. So.
Clear the motion is
To waive the 60 days. Okay. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? So you have 2 opposed, Mr. Stolberg and Mr. Nyberg. Mr. Stevens, can you hear us?
Where are you? Where are you? Oh, you're working.
I just want to make sure that if he has the opportunity to weigh in on this one. Okay, fair enough. Next up then is Lacombe County's request for decision subdivision referral, page 96 of your package.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So as part of their routine process, I think we've seen one package referral at the same time last year. The Lacombe County updates their MDP and LUB just to keep the documents current. So it's not necessarily a complete rewrite. It tends to be a series of more tweaks. So for the municipal development plan, they're asking our comments on some adjustments. They, in the course of the year, they managed to do up a open space study and a master plan and an economic development strategy. And the proposed amendments to their MDP to recognize those 2 documents, try to just clean up the language. In the land use bylaw, there's a series of other changes that are more of tweaks about checking use definitions to make sure they fit and making sure they check the range of commercial uses available in the commercial industrial to broaden up the kind of anticipate what kind of economic development they may be getting. So from a municipal referral process or point of view, this should be commented on based on what impact it would have on our own planning efforts. And having looked at it, I don't see any dire concerns for our shared boundary with Lacombe County as a basis of these proposed amendments, and would recommend that we communicate back to Lacombe County that thank you very much for the opportunity to review and that we have no objections or concerns with the proposed changes that they're making. The public hearing is coming up mid-June, I believe, if I don't want to pick the wrong date.
I'll make that motion based on staff.
Okay, I just have one question. Did we ever get straightened up with their GSI on their emergency management and their blue signs? There was some counties use some and some use others, and everybody seems to be under the same one we are, except the county of Lacombe.
Pretty much. So what we did along that stretch of road, the boundary road, we identified the ones on the county side to say County of Stettler and theirs say County of Lacombe.
Okay. The reason we had an incident that there was, our emergency management was or emergency operations were trying to get out there, and theirs is like 24 or something, and ours are 240 or something.
Yeah, when the province implemented the rural addressing rules, for whatever reason, they allowed a couple of different methods, and Lacombe picked one, and the county Stettler, the majority of every other county, picked the other. So that's the numbering system. We have an 80 address interval, and I think theirs is 40 if I'm mistaken. So their numbers would be, if you were two addresses on the same side or on opposite sides of the road, would have quite a different number on them.
Fair enough. I remember we went through that. No questions, concerns? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All those in favor? That's carried. I don't know if that would be the place to discuss it anyways, if we could change that.
So for the MDP and LUV, no. I'm trying to think what the most appropriate would be, more of an operational issue for the departments to ask. Although I can see it being an awkward conversation to say, hey, would you switch?
Just on that one line.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, old business. Nobody's old here, so we're good. Mr. Gender, you're gonna take us into camera at
1:42.
1:40. All those in favor? That's I don't think there's anything that we needed to bring out of that we needed, so I think you have your instructions. Anything that anybody wants to bring up? Our next meeting, June, what is it, 27th? 26th. Okay, Mr. Clark, will you do us the honor? All those in favor?